your credentials. We always get these questions from the network, which always baffle me because, like, what is Honey Boo Boo's credentials? But
do you even need to ask?
You have like masters and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
What was the? Why were you a good candidate to teach at Monmouth University?
Well, that's a good question.
Because I have real life experience.
Right.
I have that.
No, I understand. I just had to formulate that into an answer. I have always known what I wanted to be when I grew up. I mean, my mom has essays from when I was in the 5th grade that said, I want to be a marine biologist. And I have pretty much been on that path my entire life. I became a scuba instructor as soon as I was old enough to, which was when I was 18. So now I've been a dive instructor for over 25 years. And I had sort of a interesting early college career. Went to school as a marine biology major, and then I was a flight minor. So I got to fly planes around the state of Florida and go to school for marine biology. That didn't last long. And then I've worked all over the world teaching scuba, and then finally got through college with a degree in biology, and then went on to get a master's degree in biological oceanography. But I have never strayed off the path. I have filled out one W-2 in my entire life, and I just have an entrepreneurial spirit that I can't work for anyone else in terms of them actually being my direct boss. I can work for people and do jobs for them, no problem. I'm not difficult to work with, but I need to be in charge, always. And I can't help it, but I just do. And so I have the official degrees, but I also have a world of experience because I don't wait around for people to pay me to do stuff. If I want to do something, I'm very willing to spend my own money and my own time to go out and do it. I built my own shark cage only because I wanted one. I build crazy camera contraptions which will follow bunker around the bottom of the water so I can get that shot of a striped bass hitting a bunker, not because anyone's paying me to do it, just because I want to do it. I put those challenges in front of myself, and I make sure that I continue to do them until they're done. And I think that Monmouth University appreciates the fact that I have a lot of experience, and the students at Monmouth can learn a lot from someone who has a lot more practical knowledge and know which way to use a hammer.
Let's talk about the horseshoe crab. Why, you spoke a little bit about it in there, about why you wanted that design. What were some of the engineering challenges of it?
Well, probably the biggest engineering challenge was how to get the thing onto the bottom safely. And that was, even before one stick of welding happened on the barge, I always knew that it was going to be a difficult challenge getting that thing onto the bottom. I built the horseshoe crab on a barge, and I permanently affixed it to this shitty old steel barge that was donated from a local company. And they don't give away good barges. They don't even really give away crappy barges anymore, really, because steel costs so much. But the way the horseshoe crab is built, you have a large mass on one end, and then you have a skinny amount of mass on the other, which is the main part of the body, and then the tail. So I always knew that the thing was going to be sort of out of balance. So I was constantly having to adjust and make sure that I didn't put too much weight on one end and not enough weight on the other. And so that ended up being the biggest challenge. And in the end, it was really the biggest challenge when the crane company dropped my horseshoe crab. And it sank exactly the way it wasn't supposed to. I knew I couldn't get it to the bottom just by pulling the plug and letting the thing sink. I had to hire someone to deliver it to the bottom safely, and in the end there was an accident, and the horseshoe crab slipped out of the cradle that it was in, and it ended up crashing onto the bottom and completely being destroyed. After over a year's worth of work and hundreds of thousands of dollars out of my own pocket, might I add.
I think
Again, one of those.
For the demo, I'll probably leave the crashing out of it.
That's fine.
Because it's...
I'm still in litigation, so it's better if you do.
Yeah. So, what was the response from peers when you said, I'm going to build a horseshoe crab as an artificial reef?
I got a lot of street cred from that project, I have to be honest with you. Anyone who's willing to take a year and a half out of their own lives just to fulfill a crazy goal and a passion, you end up getting a lot of credit for something like that. It was a lot of my own time. It was a lot of my own money, and where I wasn't spending money out of mine and my wife's checking account, I was fundraising, whether it be a donation from a company or throwing parties that people came and paid a certain amount for. So it ended up to be really good for business. Now, I'm very passionate. I like an engineering challenge. I like to express myself artistically. It was a great thing to do in terms of providing habitat as an artificial reef on the bottom of the ocean, which is much needed. But, there's no such thing as true altruism. I mean, I knew it was going to be good for business. So I looked at it like an investment. It was very much of an investment in me, my company, my reputation, and also, in the ocean. It was a good deposit on the ocean floor.
It seems like your job is similar to mine in that I call it herding cats. You're getting a lot of people to come together to do something. How much, it's not like you go in and punch a clock. It's kind of, how much effort is it to get a project organized?
My entire life, from the time I wake up in the morning until the time I go to bed, is all furthering what I do for a living. I'm never off the clock. I work 7 days a week, every waking hour of my life, whether I'm making a telephone call or I'm sending an email or researching a particular project. And just when life starts to get too complicated or too comfortable, I complicate it as much as I possibly can. Similar to the horseshoe crab project, work was slow. I'm like, oh well, fuck it. I guess I better start the biggest project in my life. And when there was going to be no money coming in the future, I had a bunch of time on my hands. So I figured idle hands are the devil's business or something like that. But if I have any innate skill, I would have to say that I am a networker and a person who has the ability to organize resources practically better than anybody that I know. I can get more done with $100 than anybody I know. I mean, I could fucking build a ship for $100 with the people that I know. Just calling in favors, telling somebody I'll do them a favor, trading services, coming up with a good reason why somebody needs that ship. I mean, I might spend the $100 on phone calls, but eventually that ship will get built. And it's a skill.
One of the things I'm going to get asked is, well, what's the structure of this show? You have any thoughts on that? How would this show work?
I do. And I liken it probably most to Burn Notice. Have you ever seen this show, Burn Notice, where Michael Weston was burned 6 seasons ago, but he's still trying to fuck the guy who burned him 6 seasons later. So you have, 80% of the show is sort of dedicated to today's project, something that can be wrapped up quickly. while the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes of every show is sort of furthering that overarching theme of something. I have lots of those small projects, and then I have some overarching themes that could certainly be forwarded.
A question that we'll get is, are there enough stories to do a series?
Well, let's hope so. Because if there aren't enough stories, then I can't pay my mortgage.
Well, let's put it this way. How many jobs do you do a year?
Thankfully, my life does not revolve around getting a paycheck. There are always things that I am developing, whether it's building my shark cage for furthering my own photo or video library. I'm not focused specifically on the jobs that I need to get paid for. So I'm always doing something that could certainly be to fit this bill.
What I mean by that is they want to see a formula for each show. So as I was saying before, an A story and a B story. Could an episode be, hey, I got a call from this museum that wants me to shoot great sharks. I got to go figure out how to do this. And meanwhile, I need to create a rainforest museum, rainforest display for this museum in Texas. Could those be two things that could possibly overlap?
Absolutely. Yeah, that is a perfect example. The whale skeleton artificial reef that I'm working on. I'm in the very early stages of trying to get that going, but there's lots of things that need to be done preliminarily, whether I'm going out to Oregon to go dig up some of the skeleton that's been buried on the beach for 8 years to see what the condition of it is in, but I also am doing a job for them where I'm building them an artificial fiberglass deer feeder that's going in their vulture exhibit. So those are two things that will happen in the same location. You have the small exhibit that needs to be done today and finished, but you also have the whale skeleton that is something that's going to be going on for months into the future. So yeah, there's lots of things that can be done like that.
Will we just be able to get a line and say, last year alone I did X amount of projects? And you can even inflate the number if need be. Just to give them a number, because in their mind they're going to think, oh, episodes. How many episodes can we get? How many? What?
Right.
Yes, they might say, just last year alone, I did more than 50 projects.
Right. Do you want me to say 50?
We could say it's broad. We could define projects however we want.
Right. Exactly. And I think that. And I think it would be a mistake to concentrate on just the ones that there's a paycheck at the end of the road, because they're, to be honest with you, not the particularly interesting ones, in my opinion. They're not. The creativity is less. There's less innovation in those types of projects. And what I would consider the most interesting part. Now, there's the money shot at the end, but we can always come up with something like that. I mean, last year I would say that in terms of paid projects from zoos and aquariums, I did somewhere between 20 and 30. Great. Some of them big, some of them small, and everywhere in between.
Do you have kids?
I do not have any kids.
You're married, though.
I'm married. Yes, I'm married to a elementary school science teacher. So we're dorks. We lay around and read science textbooks.
When somebody asks your wife what her husband does for a living, what does she say?
She laughs. I think that the canned answer is she goes to he builds exhibits for zoos and aquariums. But it's a complicated answer, and no one knows it more than she does. That's for sure.
So does she? Your workshop is at home. Is your wife? I could almost see the scene in a movie. You're out working in there. She's up getting coffee. She looks out the window, sees you, and rolls her eyes.
Oh boy, let me tell you, I was ripping the mold making material off the face of a white-tailed deer one time that I had to mold, and I had a Tyvek suit on and a respirator, and I had a hammer, and I was hammering the mold off the skull of the deer. And she came out to tell me that dinner was ready, and looked downstairs and was just like, "Oh, nice, real nice." I mean, the belly was starting to get big because I couldn't take the guts out of it because it was starting to deteriorate in my shop. So I had to put a tube in its belly to let the gases out, and they blew up all over my shop. And yeah, so it's not always pretty. But it's always interesting. I make sure of it.
You spoke a little bit about some outside hobbies of yours. So you're a hunter as well?
I am. I've been a spear fisherman for as long as I can remember, ever since I was a little kid. And I just started hunting deer about 3 years ago or so. And I love it. It's I always wanted to know what it was like to pull the trigger on a big animal. And I have a difficult time relaxing sometimes and being stuck in a tree where you're not allowed to move or make a noise for 3 or 4 hours at a time is actually very meditative and very good for me. So it's a chance for me to stop for a little while. But I'm in a place that I really like and I'm interested in, so the time actually goes by very quickly because I can sit and see how tree buttresses are formed and see where shelf mushrooms grow and see how the animals are moving around the woods and how a piece of rock erupts from a hillside naturally. That's all stuff that I need to know and I need to pay attention to. So it's my big excuse that I'm working while I'm out there.
Any close calls or things you regret while you were working on a project? You mentioned the sharks when the lights went out. Any lessons learned?
Believe me, anytime I'm in the shark tank, and I that's always in the back of my mind is, what if the lights were to go out now? How would everyone react? They generally send someone in there with you to kind of watch your back, because I have stuff that I have to do, whether I'm photographing or I'm measuring something or I'm epoxying something to the bottom. I really can't